This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Hello, everybody.
Nailed it. Joined as always by our Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
The math coaches, whether it be in football, whether it be in basketball, certainly happens a lot in baseball, refuse to adjust from their strategy because the spreadsheet tells them this is what you need to do to win the game. The spreadsheet was created before the game, not when you're up 20 points in the third quarter or 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, but they continue to go bombs away when really all you got to do with this big lead is just run out the clock. And it's maybe not mathematically sexy, but it's how you're going to win the game. That's my big problem. Just go to the paint. But no, Kyle Shanahan has to have Jimmy Garoppolo throw the ball deep in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl up 2 scores because that's what the math says. That's what killed me.
It always comes back to that with us.
Always.
It always comes back to Kyle Shanahan being minutes away from like 3-time Super Bowl champion to 0-time Super Bowl champion. That's where it always comes.
60-minute game.
No matter what we do, it always comes back to that. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth, Patriots Catch-22 with you for a couple hours here on schedule release day. The schedule will be released tonight, 8 o'clock. It is a marquee event because obviously with the NFL, what isn't a marquee event? I'll just say off the top, schedule leaks. We're not going to touch on those. I know that there's a lot of things floating around social media right now, but we're just going to stick to the facts on this show and on probably all of our shows. So we're not going to sit here and guess about which leaks are accurate and which leaks are not accurate and all that good stuff. So as the schedule comes out tonight and then tomorrow on PU, we'll talk plenty about the schedule, and you'll be on the Sports Hub, I'm sure, talking about the schedule and all that good stuff. So you'll get our schedule reacts in due time. But for today's show, what we're going to focus on rookie minicamp. I know it's been a minute since we were out at rookie minicamp, but it's our first show since rookie minicamp. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss the defensive side of the ball, do our roster reset on defense. I have a few things I wanted to bring up there. And I know that people are going to call and email in about the schedule. So I'm sure we'll give some takes about or theories about the schedule. But before we really get into it, support the home team. Join New England's event staff here at Gillette Stadium. Seasonal positions available in food and beverage, parking and security. Visit www.thecraftgroup.com/careers and apply today. All right, Alex. Well, I've had a whirlwind of a couple of days, as you can imagine. This has been a whirlwind of emotions for your boy over here. Monday night, I was at the Kendrick Lamar concert. Had a great time with Jess at the Kendrick Lamar concert. He was fantastic. He hit it out of the park. He played every song that I wanted him to play, and I was very excited about it. I mean, from top to bottom, I just thought, is exactly what all of us Kendrick fans wanted. I was a little concerned that he was going to lean too much into the Drake stuff like he kind of did on the Super Bowl halftime show, and it was going to be too much of an FU tour to Drake, but it wasn't. He played a lot of his OG hits. It was fantastic. And then as I'm walking out of the Kendrick Lamar concert, I'm looking at my phone, and Jason Tatum no longer has an Achilles. So, it was like the highest of highs that you could go for to the lowest of lows.
Right.
So that was, I will admit right now, I am in 7 stages of grief. And so we're going to talk about Patriots for the next 2 hours to totally ignore all my emotions and feelings about the Celtics right now. But the one little thing I have to say just to get off my chest, to make this Patriot related, the 08 Brady is the only thing I can think of that rises to this level in our time as sports fans / reporters. I mean, there's no other injury in Boston sports history during my lifetime where the superstar player of the team goes down with such a major injury that might wipe out an entire season of his prime. It really feels a lot like 08 Brady to me, and there's a lot of parallels there.
There are. They were coming off of a historical season in the context of the league and, had this super team built. And it's a significant injury in an ACL back then. And it sounds crazy saying back then. This is, 15, almost 20 years ago now. was a lot more significant, held a lot more long-term implications than it does now, kind of like an Achilles does now. And obviously, and it's a good parallel, even though I was texting a buddy that night who said I was being dramatic bringing that up. But
You were. I was your buddy in the denial stage of the 7 stages of grief.
as much as I tried to tell him that he was being a little too positive.
Yeah.
But no, there are a ton of similarities, and I've actually been kind of looking into, reading stories from around that time. And look, we all know what happened. Brady came back. It took a while, but he wins 4 more Super Bowls, 3 year, cemented his status as the greatest player in the history of the sport. But at the time, there was a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
People didn't know. It was like, are we going to blow this core up? Is Brady going to play with Moss again? What's going to happen here? Matt Castle leads them to 11 wins. Now it's, we don't know where Brady's at. What happens? And just, will he ever be the same player again? Or is this the beginning of the end? And is that run that we got with him, is that going to be it? And it was what should have been a long career cut short. Obviously, that's not what happened, but these were some of the questions at the time. And even Brady himself, going back and reading some of the quotes from him, not immediately after, but later on, talking about how that changed the way he viewed football and his interaction with football. And a lot of the stuff that he became very well known for, the TB12 method, pliability, avocado ice cream, not eating tomatoes, right? All of that. The genesis of a lot of that is that injury in 2008.
Well, you're human, right?
Right.
Like, for the first time, and it's not it's not exactly apples to apples because Brady won 3 and Jason Tatum's only won 1.
But if you go back to that moment, right? If you go back to that moment, it's very similar.
Very similar stages of their careers. That was Brady's 8th year as the Patriots starter. It's Tatum's 8th year in the NBA right now. Both in the primes of their careers, both arguably one of the best players in the sport, if not the best player in the sport in Brady's case. So it's very similar.
So I think if you're
tough.
Jason Tatum, you go back and you look at some of the ways Tom Brady approached that, or even maybe reach out to him. And again, Brady talked about how it changed the way he approached the game, and it'll be interesting to see how Tatum attacks it and if he brings that similar mentality.
Yeah. It's the more I looked into it, because I did want to bring it to Patriot focus, since this is a Patriots podcast, the more I looked into it, even though Brady was a little bit older, there's different age brackets in terms of primes when you're an NFL quarterback versus a superstar player in the NBA.
Right.
Brady was 30-31 when he tore his ACL. Jason Tatum's only 27, but Jason Tatum came into the league at 18, 19 years old, and Brady was older. So the amount of time that they had spent in the league at that point was exactly the same. We're taking out 2000 for Brady. So 8 years as the starter, 8-year career so far for Jason Tatum. We thought, I was just remembering my, kind of jogging my memory of 2008. It was all about righting the wrong of losing Super Bowl 49. Like, that's really what the focus was, okay, you went 18-0, you went 16-0 in the regular season. Like, no one wanted them really to try to do that again. They just wanted to win it, right, again, and would just focus on winning the Super Bowl. And they had, by far, were the betting favorites. And this was, I think the difference is, to me, that makes this one almost, in some ways, tougher, is that it kind of feels like 2 seasons are now impacted by this Tatum thing, because even though they were going down 3-1 no matter what. They were going to lose Game 4 to the Knicks, and they were going to go down 3-1 no matter what. But crazier things have happened than the favorite with 2 home games coming back from a 3-1 deficit to win the series.
Sure.
So this season is now basically over, all intents and purposes. And then next season might basically be over too, because he might not play at all in 2026, whereas, with Brady, it was like, all right, the 2008 season's a wash, but week 1, 2009, we know Brady's going to be out there.
And then there's, again, that, so next year, we'll see. Look, they still have Jaylen Brown. I don't think they're moving on from Jaylen Brown. I don't think they're moving on from Derek White. So, and the East it's terrible. It's really bad, especially the way the lottery screwed some teams. Right. Think about how bad they'd have to be to not even be in the play-in. In this conference. So they'll still be decent, but what does the future look like after that? The roster's going to turn over. Next time we see Jason Tatum on the floor, it's going to, I would say more than 50% of the roster is going to be different. Who knows what the coaching staff will look like, all of that. So with Brady, it was kind of the same thing where they hit that breaking point.
Yeah.
And what happened was they used that. I don't know that was solely the opportunity. Some of it was just the time. And look, they obviously get back to the Super Bowl in 2011, so it was a little more of a drawn-out process, as it is in football compared to basketball. That's kind of the demarcation of Brady being the young kid who was on the rise, who was taking this roster of veterans and maximizing things, to it really being the Tom Brady show. Yeah. And he was the veteran, and he was the guy, and everybody's looking up to him. This is kind of the same opportunity for Tatum. It was Tatum's team. Don't get me wrong. It was Tatum's team. But you still had Al Horford and Drew Holiday as those veteran leaders, and he was still, I don't want to say like up and coming. We knew who he was, but he was considered like one of the younger superstars in the game. Yeah. He's coming back as like the veteran, get on my back, here we go. It's, old head Jason Tatum leading this group of younger players. I think that's what it's going to be when it comes back, which it was for Brady, right? The 2010, 2011 drafts, you get 2009, you get Edelman, Gronk, Slater, McCourty, like that whole thing.
The other tight end.
That's what I think the Celtics need to do here in the next 2 years is have that kind of transformation like the Patriots did in the early 2010s.
So the last thing I'll say about this, because I know some people hate when we talk about other sports on this show, so I'll just wrap it up with this. Today is where we went from denial. Last night was depression.
Are you finally to acceptance?
The last night was depression.
What's your new hobby, by the way?
I told Alex that I was going to pick up a new hobby because I can't handle this anymore. Flat out depression last night, anger/depression. Today is acceptance / what's the word? Just
moving forward.
No.
What do we do now?
Just like ridiculous overconfidence that he's going to come back sooner than I think.
If you're going to be overconfident about anything, it should be the Celtics still winning this series.
No, I'm not overconfident. I'm not any sort of confidence.
I think there's a better chance
tonight, maybe, but not.
I think there's a better chance the Celtics win this series than there is of Tatum coming back, to play meaningful games next season.
So this is why I disagree with you a little bit, and this is totally Cope, totally green team or Cope, but the green teamer take right now. I'll put it to you that way. He had the surgery right away.
Yeah.
And a big reason why he had the surgery right away is because it's like the quickest path.
It's supposed to help recovery,
back. Now, everybody says you miss a calendar year, but there are guys that have come back quicker. He is 27. He's in peak physical condition. He's never been hurt before. It was a clean rupture and a clean surgery from everything that we've heard. So it's not totally out of the realm of possibility that by like March or April of next year, he could try to ramp it up to make it for the playoffs.
So, but if
it's not, and I'm not saying that they should do that.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's smart. I'm just saying that it's not completely crazy to say that there's a chance that, let's say they are the Bridgie Celtics, and let's say they are pacing to win 50 games, which in this Eastern Conference might be like the 3 or 4 seed in the East. And then you look at it and you say, well, he's good. He's ready to come back. In late March, early April, we have 10 more regular season games to get him into some game shape. It's not crazy to think that he could play at the end of next year because of his age and because of the history in terms of his, work ethic and all that good stuff. That's total copium. That is an absolute green teamer take. But I that's out there this morning a little bit amongst us, diehard Celtics fans, that it's not totally outlandish to think that he could maybe
if they're
play
not a
next
true
year.
contender, just let him rest. Maybe a couple games at the end of the year to get his feet back.
No, I don't need him to play. And I think I would probably prefer them to just treat next year as a reset season.
We'll see in October. What would it be? October 2026? No, October 2027.
No, 26.
26?
Next year is the 25,
25, 26.
Yeah.
I'll see you October 26. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that, but at the same time, if they're the Isaiah Thomas Bridgie Celtics and they're a 50-win team without him and they really feel like they could get hot at the right time, I'm not ruling it out. That's all I'm saying. I can't rule it out.
Right,
For my own psyche, I can't rule it out.
We'll have this argument again, I'm sure, next year.
Rookie minicamp. Let's talk Patriots. All right, thank you. I appreciate I had to vent a little bit. I needed a little therapy there, right, to vent for a second about what just happened to my team. rookie minicamp. We were out there. God, what was it? Friday? All these.
Friday.
I'm
yes.
just in a malaise at this point. Friday. Watching rookie minicamp. I think the biggest takeaway, and again, we always preface these things, and as we should, nobody is putting anybody in the Hall of Fame, and nobody is putting anybody in the bust category because of one day of rookie minicamp practice. Like, none of these takeaways, none of these opinions are should be or are anything crazy in terms of expectations for any of these guys. Right. But I think everybody's biggest takeaway, just listening around to what other people who were there were saying, was just more about the coaching staff and about Mike Vrabel, and just watching Mike Vrabel conduct a practice and how hands-on he is as a coach, how active he is throughout the practice. The pace of practice, I thought, was noticeably quicker, maybe even more noticeably than the end of Belichick, I would say. And that's not with veterans, so we'll see what happens when you have the experienced guys get in there. Maybe it drags a little bit more, but it felt fast-paced. It felt energetic. It felt loud. Like, I just felt like I heard a lot of things. Now, we were inside, so maybe that was a factor.
It probably helped.
But it just felt not just Vrabel, all the coaches. It felt like they really were setting a tone and an energy. And then, of course, Mike Vrabel is just, every single position is getting coached by Mike Vrabel. Like, there's not
He's all over the place.
one spot, from special teams drills to receivers to tight ends to offensive line, defensive line, which is what you would expect, defensive line and linebacker. He's playing like scout team linebacker. At one point in this practice, it was impressive to watch. Like, I look at that and come away personally exhausted from watching how active he is, and asking myself, is it truly realistic to do that for 6 straight months? Once training camp comes around, but he does it. He has that kind of energy.
Yeah, no, I think that's their plan. I think that's the way he's going to do this, is he's going to be involved in every little bit of it. And we heard from Milton Williams yesterday, kind of a story about how they were running. It sounded like they were running gassers, and Williams knew he was going to get to the line in time, and he kind of pulled up, and Vrabel called him out for it. It's the highest paid free agent in April or May on one rep, and Vrabel stepped in and told him to run it. He's watching everything. He's doing everything. He's involved in everything. True CEO head coach. And we talked about this a lot the last 2 years. That's not easy to do.
No.
We kind of saw a little taste of it on Friday.
He's going up to Landlaris and correcting a route. He's going up to CJ Dupree and making a correction. It was one thing, and it was expected from my vantage point, that he be doing that kind of stuff with the offensive and defensive line. That's where his specialty is, even special teams, and he mentioned it in his press conference. He played a ton of special teams throughout his NFL career, especially early in Pittsburgh. So I had all the expectations in the world that those were going to be areas of expertise for him. But even going out and coaching, route, top of the route technique, and being able to break that kind of stuff down, that was impressive. That tells you a guy that knows every single detail of a football team.
I think some of this is and I don't know if he was doing that in Tennessee or not, but I think you're seeing the value of his, I don't know, what do we want to call it, a gap year?
Yeah.
Being an exchange student in Cleveland last year on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And getting to work with, now he said he worked mostly with the offensive line, but did some with tight ends where this is relevant. I think you're kind of seeing that, where he has this more well-rounded background than maybe he had when he first started coaching.
So the other takeaway that I had on the coaching front, I had known this because we had done some videos and stuff like that with him, but Josh McDaniels probably lost 100 pounds.
Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah, we got Svelte McDaniels. This looks like 2005, 2006 Josh McDaniels. He looks like another guy that he took the full year off. Vrabel didn't, but he took the full year off, and now it feels like maybe revitalized, rejuvenated, whatever word you want to use to describe it. But we haven't got to see him up close with Drake May yet. That will be cool. But we saw him coaching Kyle Williams up a little bit. Just a vibrant Josh, a rejuvenated Josh McDaniels, which I found interesting. Looks like a totally different person. He cut his weight in half, and that's I don't know if that means anything at all. It just was an observation that he looked like a more energetic, svelte guy. out there. Let's get to the players. Will Campbell, obviously starting in order off the top here. At left tackle, there's no Peter Skoronski going on here. We're not cross training or unsure or whatever the case may be. I know we posted some pictures yesterday from practice with the veterans with Drake May, and he's on Drake May's blind side at left tackle right away. So that was the first takeaway, was just there's no question internally, I don't think, about is he a tackle, is he a guard. At least early on he's going to be a tackle, and there's not going to be any debate about that. The other thing that I just, again, it's against blocking pads with no pads on in a day one of rookie minicamp, but you can see the power, and you can see the hands and the grip strength that we talked a ton about during the draft process, and the way he explodes out of his stance and with really good leverage and really good power from the ground up, and his hands, and his finishing ability. You could see that even just watching him, block against the pads and things like that. There's a pop that he makes when he makes contact with that pad. So we still don't know about pass protection. That's going to be the number one thing with him. The length stuff and all that stuff is going to impact him a lot more in pass protection than it is in run blocking. But just watching him move and watching him go through drills, and from a run blocking perspective, it was exactly what I expected to see, and it checked the box for me 100% that I wanted to see out of a non-padded thing. Like, I compared it when we were watching during practice. This is a pro day, right? Like that,
right.
This is what it looks like for offensive linemen at a pro day. This is what you're going to see. They're going to be hitting blocking pads. They're going to be executing different blocks on the line of scrimmage, most likely, reach blocks, combos, doubles, those types of things. Like, that's what you're going to ask them to do in this kind of setting. And you can easily see the athleticism, the explosiveness, the power that he has in his frame, how all that is going to translate nicely to run blocking. We'll see about the pass pro, but from the run blocking perspective, it was cool to hear that thud, to hear it, how powerful and strong he is into the blocking pads. I watched it for like a good 20 minutes. I was really impressed and into it.
Yeah, and another thing, like going through, they actually weren't using whistles. The coaches were just yelling whistle at the end of each rep, but sometimes guy would go through a rep, you'd hear whistle, and the guy would just kind of stop. With Will Campbell, you'd hear whistle, 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 just finishing every single rep, which obviously we've seen him do on tape. There was this weird narrative out there that he wasn't physical, and that he wasn't that much of a bully leading up to the draft. I don't quite know about that one.
Yeah,
but
no,
you saw a little bit of that.
You saw everything you wanted to see. And the last thing I would say about Will Campbell, just talking to some of his coaches down at LSU for the feature that I wrote about him on the website, the one thing that a lot of them mentioned was he's a true tone setter of the offensive line. And again, no one's fitting him for red jackets. There's a long way to go. There's still a lot of question marks about some of the things with his game. If he practices that hard in May at a rookie minicamp, that's when you talk about the culture stuff. Like, that's when you talk about setting tones and being that kind of guy and leading by example and all that kind of stuff. He was blocking like it was game speed in day one of rookie minicamp in the middle of May. So if you want to reestablish a culture and reestablish just a baseline work ethic in an offensive line room, that's what it needs to be. Like, that's what your best player in the 4th overall pick in the draft needs to do. He needs to practice like that.
Right.
And that was probably, out of all this other stuff we're talking about with Campbell, I would say the effort was probably the number one thing to take away from this kind of setting. Was just, you could see that. It was tangible. That, okay, if this guy, our 4th overall pick, if I'm Jack Conley, right? Like, I'm an undrafted rookie trying to make the roster, and the 4th overall pick is blocking through the whistle and taking every rep like a game rep in rookie minicamp, well, I better up my game too. I better get to that level as well. And you hope that trickles in even with veterans as we go here and the guys that have been here. So that was good to see as well from Will Campbell. Again, looks the part, fills out the suit, whatever cliche you want to use. We did not see Travion Henderson. He was there for the rest of minicamp, it looks but he just wasn't there for the day that it was open to the media. So I'll skip Travion Henderson. There's no more speculation needed about why he wasn't there.
No, he was there on one of the other days. They put out pictures.
Yeah,
of him,
he was there.
He was there at some point.
I believe it was Saturday that they put out the picture that he was there. And then he was there yesterday or whatever those pictures were taken from OTAs taking handoffs from Drake May. So he's here. He's not. There's no more. If there ever was any concern about him not participating, he's participating now. So Kyle Williams, I thought again moved well and just kind of looked the part as well. Saw him working a lot on the outside, which I think is tells you a little bit about their plans for him, at least in the short term, in terms of where he's going to train and where he's going to fit in right away. But there was a certain speed to his game and quickness to his game that I liked. They did a open field leveraging drill. They obviously aren't tackling. There's no pads, so they're not tackling anybody, but they're just angling, to tackle people. And in a phone booth, he made a guy look silly. Like, a guy dove for him and just completely missed and ended up basically dropping the guy to the ground. Right, so you see some of the quickness in a phone booth. You certainly see some of the separation ability in the team drills that we did get a look at. So, again, same thing like I said with Will Campbell, just kind of a box check for Kyle Williams. I thought that he looked as a speed receiver should in this kind of setting. I should come away impressed with, his speed, and I was pretty impressed with the speed.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It was tough for a lot of the pass-catching players because the quarterbacks didn't give him a ton of help, but you're right. He moved well and saw a lot of them on the outside, which is notable.
All right, so those were the draft picks. Jared Wilson, I thought, didn't do a ton in this practice. They had him snapping. He's playing center. Like, those are the types of things you're looking for, but I didn't necessarily see him, in this kind of setting. The center is not going to be super active in drills, so I wouldn't necessarily have a big take about him. The two defensive linemen, Joshua Farmer and Braden Swinson, the biggest thing I just saw with those two guys is that, their physical traits looked how I was hoping they would look. Farmer is maybe a little shorter than I was expecting just in person, but the long arms were obvious. Like, you could see that he's got long arms and sort of I would say like almost like a Keon White build to him. Like, you can see sort of like a raw, toolsy, athletic guy out of his build. Swinson was that an athletic, outside pass rusher, edge rusher look to him, but that was Farmer kind of looked a little bit like Keon White to me in a practice jersey. The way the cut, like,
I think he's a little bit bigger. But I could see that. I'm
not saying that in terms of their playing style necessarily. There's a ton of similarities.
Right, just physically look similar.
Physically, let's get to the undrafted free agents. I
have one take on one more of the draft picks.
Oh yeah.
Marcus Bryant, the tackle from Missouri, is like insanely huge.
Yeah.
Like, he was dwarfing everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I saw him next to Will Campbell, and I thought, like, Will Campbell looks small. And then I saw them next to everybody else, and I was like, no, Will Campbell's still the second biggest guy out here. Marcus Bryant is massive. And with his athleticism, man, if they can get him going, if they can fix some of that technique stuff, I don't know, like, again, I think he might almost be too big just in terms of the height and leverage and stuff. But you just talk about raw traits and a guy that has some tools you want to work with. Yeah, he's really big. He moves well. Like, that I can't believe he fell as far as he did. I don't think he was going to be like a top 200 pick or anything, or a top 150 pick, I should say. But, like, there's some fun traits there. There really are.
He's a little high cut. I think that was one thing that people had against him was long legs, short torso, high cut frame, which typically tends to lead to some issues with leveraging or pad level in your blocking when you're built like that, especially at tackle. Like, it's harder to get underneath guys. It's harder to get hands on speed because you don't have the bend and that flexibility in your lower half to do that. There's good tackles that have gotten away with it being high cut like that and have had really good NFL careers. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but he's an athletic guy. There's no doubt about that. And he's a big dude. Like, and that's all we were looking for this time of year. In terms of the undrafted rookies, I had some fun during practice with some of these guys.
One guy in
particular.
It's not who you think.
Some of it was kind of tongue in cheek because some of it was
the Land Larison stuff was legit.
I like the cut of his jib, as Paul Perillo likes to say. I was impressed, more impressed than I thought I was going to be about Land Larison and just the burst that he has. Like he's not. I still don't think that he's going to have great long speed, right? Like he's not a top end home run hitter type of running back. But for the role that I think he projects best into, which is that James White, Shane Vereen, Kevin Falk, third down running back type of role, he's got good initial quickness, out of routes and burst into the flats and to the top of the route and things like that. And he's got a little bit of juice at the top of the route, like a little bit of wiggle there to his game. So he's wearing 34. He kind of looks like Rex Burkhead. He's playing like Rex Burkhead. I think that comparison still exists in my mind, at least, for Land Larison. But in general, that's what my takeaway with him was like, that movement skill, those traits, like that lends themselves to that kind of role in this offense. Like he at least has that baseline of, okay, he moves the way that you need to move to be able to succeed in that role.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's quickness to it. There's real quickness and subtleness to his game. So that was impressive. I'm surprised you weren't more impressed with Chisholm. Just gets open. The subtleness of his route running. Just really smart player. The way he sees the field, creates separation, things like that. I mean, these are all things you see on tape. You see it in person, you can see some more of the nuance in the footwork and things like that. CJ Dupree, another guy that, seeing him in person, you see the listed size, right? 6'5", 250, whatever. You see him in person, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, he looks like a tackle.
Yeah.
He's built like Nate Solder, kind of. He's, 40
Big
pounds
dude.
lighter, but built like Nate Solder, moves better than I thought. Guy that's going 110% every rep. I think it's the guys we've talked about. The one guy I wonder, and maybe this is just because they haven't really done install, they were using Brock Lampy more as a tight end than a traditional fullback. Maybe that's because they're going through some and he did do some traditional fullback stuff. Maybe it's because that's not all installed yet or whatever. But that was the one thing I noticed that I was like, if he's just going to compete mainly as a tight end, I don't think he's going to make the team.
So there was some stuff on his tape at Northern Illinois, talking about Brock Lampy.
Yeah.
Wing blocking, not as much inline, like hand in the dirt, 6 offensive lineman type stuff, more like H-back, move tight end angles that he was taking that weren't true fullback backfield reps. So he has that in his bag.
Yeah, but I just think if that's what you want, Jaheim Bell's better. We talked about this last week. If
They're
you want
built differently, so that's the only pushback I would have on that. Like, because Lampy's what, like 6'2", 250, 260. Like he's built like a Mack truck. Whereas Bell is like an athletic tight end.
But
like
if you want Kyle Juszczyk, right?
Yeah.
It's Jaheim Bell. If you want the guy that's going to be more tight end than fullback, but be on that hybrid, it's going to be Jaheim Bell. If you want Jakob Johnson, James Devlin, that kind of guy, it's Brock Lampy. If you wanted the hybrid, you would have drafted Robbie Utes.
Well, the hybrid is sort of what I'm thinking is maybe the role that they have in mind. And when you watch Ravens tape or Chargers tape with their guys that are bigger than Lampy, a lot of those guys are like converted defensive linemen that are now playing as blockers for those two teams, for the Harbaughs. But when you watch them, they do take a lot of reps as in that wing role, right? Which is like the off the line tight end next to the Y that's a little bit further out and is a little back on the line of scrimmage. And that role is, there's a lot of different things you can do within that role because of the alignment. You can have him get out and block on the perimeter and block corners and slot corners and outside corners on tosses or outside zone. You can sift them, block across the formation, coming back across the grain in like a split zone or a duo scheme. You can have him insert up to the second level as well in duo. So like there's a bunch of different things that you can do from that position, as well as, having those guys to block as like a fullback if you wanted to move him into that kind of role. So maybe that's more of the role that this is evolving to under McDaniels. It's definitely, not so much with the Chargers, but with the Ravens, like it's more of like a wing T, option offense role. So if they are thinking of putting that kind of stuff in with Drake May, not to run him like Lamar Jackson, but like just a little bit of it and have a touch of it, then maybe that's part of what their thought process is. But I thought Lampy's blocking tape from the various alignments is definitely better than Jaheim Bell's.
Well, so that's what I go back to. If you're going to have that guy spend any sort of amount of time meeting a linebacker in the A gap, it has to be Brock Lampy.
Yeah, and I think
Bell,
that will
I just
still
don't
be,
think can do that.
That
And they
will
can
still
both
be a base, I think.
Right, and they can both make the team too. It's not necessarily one or the other. Now that means probably 5 wide receivers instead of 6, or you're keeping Marcus Bryant as your third tackle, so you don't have to keep Lowe and Jacobs as direct positional backups. Maybe they're keeping one less corner can come from anywhere, one less running back.
Sure.
But they can both make the team. It's just going to come down to those at-large spots.
Yeah. No, I still won't. I will believe that lead with the fullback in the backfield going up to the linebacker in the A gap is going to be in Josh McDaniels' offense until it isn't. Like, that is a day one Josh McDaniels staple. It was in Vegas. It was with the Patriots. Like, I just can't imagine that's not going to be anywhere in the playbook. Like, they're just going to completely walk away from that kind of stuff. So I have to imagine that that's going to be there. Now, could it be there on goal line and short yardage and you're using a 6th offensive lineman as an eligible player because it's a situational thing only? Like, sure. I don't know if it's going to be in there 1st and 10 from the 25. Like, I don't know if that's like going to be a base offense type of thing for them or not. But it's going to be in the playbook. Like, it's going to be in their installations and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. Jack Conley, there's another guy there, and I was encouraged by what I saw at Boston College out of Jack Conley, what I heard at his pro day about his versatility and about some of the different things that he could do from playing guard, tackle, jumbo tight end, like all across the offensive line. Certainly has size, certainly looks the part like some of these other guys like we're talking about. So I mean, I've seen. Let's not get carried away with Jack Conley. Like, no one's really giving him a shot right now at left guard. I think we're a long ways away from him being in a conversation of actually seeing the field, rather than making the roster. But another one of those guys that I thought just kind of stood out. I mean, he's a big dude. Well, he's bigger than Will Campbell.
We just
from a size,
we just talked about
size standpoint,
tracking the roster spots, and that's a guy that can maybe play 4 spots for you as a backup. So that's relevant. Just along those lines, I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. That left guard spot is probably the most wide open, right, of any on the roster, starting left guard. And everybody's kind of thrown out 3 lead contenders, and we'll get a better idea of what this looks like at over the next couple weeks at OTAs and minicamp. But Layden Robinson, Sidney So, Cole Strange.
Yeah.
What are the odds that the week 1 starting left guard is not in that group of 3? Because I think it's bigger than people think. And that could be Wes Schweitzer, that could be Jalen Wilson, that could be Jack Conley, could be this the other UDFA they signed from Arkansas State, who was with them on a tryout basis. Like, I don't know, I put it like 25-30%.
That high?
Yeah.
Jared Wilson definitely pushes it into a possibility range, right? He could definitely come out in training camp and they could look at it and say he's just too good to keep him off the field. Like, we need to find a spot for him.
Right.
Maybe it's out, like we talked about this a little bit last week. Maybe it's at left guard to start so that you're taking the center responsibilities off of him as a rookie and make it easier. I still think it's a long way. We're a long way away from talking about a Jack Conley or any UDFA pushing to start. Schweitzer's interesting.
Well, just remember, when I told you last year that Michael Jordan had a chance to start at left guard, you told me he wasn't going to make the team.
Okay, but that shouldn't have been the case.
No, he was their best left guard last year at this point.
Which is an indictment on the roster.
It's an indictment on the roster, but they don't. It's the same guys.
They're better now than they were then.
It's mostly the same guys. They added Jared Wilson to the mix.
They should not need to start.
But I still think he can win the starting job at center.
I think Wes Schweitzer, no offense, no disrespect meant. Like, Wes Schweitzer to me is Michael Jordan, right? Like that. He's a veteran guy that's kicked around the league, that has some starts under his belt. But that's what in terms of the talent level of the player, he's a Michael Jordan.
But it's the same guys. Well, I guess City So was hurt. City So would have started last year and he got hurt.
Though, because like Layden Robinson is
and Layden Robinson is
in year
all right,
2.
Fair enough.
Cole Strange wasn't there at that point last year.
Yeah.
So it's not the same guys.
Fair enough.
If they're in a position where they're starting the Michael Jordan equivalent week 1 at left guard, things went wrong.
Fair enough.
Things went wrong. Like multiple people would have.
I still think if Jared Wilson's starting week 1, it's a center. I think they want to keep him at center. Mike Vrabel kind of said that last week.
That's fair. That's fair. I just at some point you get into the season and it becomes about winning football games.
Look, I think it's going to be City So. I know there was the picture going around yesterday from whatever practice that was Schweitzer. I think this time of year, I would expect a lot of that. When Tuesday we're out there for the first time, Wednesday?
Yeah,
whatever
like
it is. I would expect to see a lot of that over the first OTA practice or two, just because it's veterans. Veterans generally get the nod this time of year. It's like how Bailey Zappi was repping over Drake May last year when we started the spring, right? I would expect to see quite a bit of that in the rookies. By the time we get to minicamp, I think we'll see the rookies more involved.
All right, so that's rookie minicamp, and I just love, and I see it in the chat, I'm sure we got some emails about it. I just love how 10 minutes of anything that's not Patriots just sets all of you on fire.
We tried to make it Patriots relevant.
It's also May, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I'm in a bad place right now, okay? I'm in a bad place. It's a dark time right now.
What's your new hobby going to be?
I'll let you know. I'm still haven't decided.
Are any of my pitches being considered?
No, definitely not. You keep trying to pitch golf to me, and I'm not going to golf. And
you should golf. Golf is a great escapism hobby.
It's
great
literally
escapism hobby.
Golf is like similar to how when I hear golf, it's similar to remember when CrossFit first became really popular.
It's so different,
and everybody
it's
just
so insanely different.
Fed it down your throat.
That is a horrible
CrossFit. Golf is it's like the
golf
same
has been
thing
around since for centuries.
I'm glad.
Evan, you strike me more of a bird watching guy.
I'm glad you enjoy it. That works for you. Don't try to make me golf. I don't want to golf. I'm not interested in it.
Bad take.
That's it. I've done it. I've done it a couple times in my life, and I don't enjoy it.
All right, so my one other pitch to Evan was he should get into video games, because if he gets into video games, we could play CFB and Madden on Twitch.
Yeah.
And if you're in the chat, would you want to watch me and Evan talk Patriots while we play Madden, some sort of football video game? Because maybe we can make that a thing.
I'll say this. Madden is a possibility, because I've seen some of the innovations of Madden, and I do feel like when you know as much about football like we do, you can kind of coach the team and draw up plays, and you can see shells of defense.
So
and,
they really unlocked that last year. You can now do so before it was if you were in cover 2, you lined up in cover 2. They put in a mechanic now where you can set a covered shell. You can open in cover 1 and then go to cover 2 or whatever.
You can rotate.
You can do custom route stems now on offense. So the college one is really where they unlocked that.
So just looking at it,
and then you can play 2K and you can play with Jason Tatum.
So no, I can't do that.
All right, I want to see you play N64 Blitz, where you can't do any of that.
Yeah, you can't do anything. He's not going to do Blitz. You're not an NFL Blitz guy.
I was as a kid.
Yeah, you're not now. I know that.
No, they literally don't call pass interference. It's you can just tackle the guy.
I'll still pitch. I'm pitching
after the call. It's awesome.
I'm pitching Madden and CFB, and then in CFB you can start learning some of the players for the draft.
It's an option, and like I said, I think the main reason is it's I watch all this film, it'd be kind of cool to put it to the test, right? If I'm playing quarterback and I watch Drake May and I criticize him when he makes a wrong read, am I able to actually on the fly notice a coverage rotation, ID what they're in, know where my beaters are, get to the beater? Obviously I'm not making the throw. Right. But I can do the mental process of what I do when I watch
so you're not
film.
making the throw, but they have a throw meter now where you have to decide exactly how much touch you want to put on the ball or how much zip. So mentally you have to decide the kind of throw.
Is this the vision thing?
No, it's very different than the vision cone. Very different. Think like a shot meter in 2K, but for passing.
Okay.
So
all right.
And put in the chat if you want to see me and Evan play Madden or the college game, you can get them in a bundle.
I don't even have a console.
We'll get you one. I'll help you out.
A console.
But if you want to see it, put it in the chat. Maybe enough of us can convince Evan to make this a thing, because I think we'd have fun.
Hey, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buytoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go places. And this is a tough read right now. Dreaming of next season? Revamp your sleep routine before kickoff with a luxurious and affordable mattress from Bob's Discount Furniture. When you team up Bob's everyday low prices with premium features like the Envy's hand-tufted tensile knit cover, naturally breathable silk and wool fibers, and heavenly hybrid construction, you're in for a sleep win. Alex, do you want tensile knit covers?
I don't know what that is. Sounds interesting.
It sounds cool. You're in for a sleep win. Or try one of Bob's Consumer Reports recommended picks like the Treasure of Copper Radiance. Get winning sleep at Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. All right.
The chat likes the idea of us playing Madden, but they think I'd win. So you've been called out.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely would win. I haven't played Madden in like 10 years.
Well, I give you like a run-up before it's like serious, before we really count it.
Okay. Let's get into our roster reset here. On the defense, so maybe we'll do like a couple positions and then we'll open it up because I know people are waiting with.
Well, it's less positions on defense and offense.
So let's start with the defensive line. There are 12 names to get through here, so bear with me. Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, Keon White, Joshua Farmer, Kyrie's Tonga, Jeremiah Farms, Jacqueline Roy, Eric Johnson, Jermaine Jones, Javari Ritzy, Isaiah Aiton, I believe, and Wilfred Penny are your defensive linemen right now.
Penny's an IPP player.
For the sake of facilitation, I had two little things I jotted down here.
Yeah.
The first one, and this one is the most interesting thing to me. I should get the caveat out of the way. Christian Barmore, like, is he going to be available? Is he not going to be available? That, is he going to be 100% go? No setbacks like last year when he tried to come back. All that stuff is definitely out there. But what's a little bit more interesting to me, just in terms of this defensive line outlook, is there another level for Keon White? Like, is this the best Keon White is going to be, or is there another level? And can Mike Vrabel and hopefully once he's his health is in better order, Terrell Williams come back and be able to get that out of him? And because I go back and forth on Keon White. On the one hand, there's a ton of raw talent there. There's a really good pass rush production from last year. But is he just a interior pass rusher that should really be more used in a rotation sparingly, situationally? Sparingly is the wrong word. Situationally is the right word. Or is there a 3-down player in there that just hasn't been coached up properly?
Well, I think some of it's consistency because we've seen flashes of it. And some of that's due to injuries. But like is there another level? I think at times he's played at a very high level. You look at those first few games of his rookie year. You look at that little stretch he had last year. So I don't know that it's like he knows how to do it. Yeah. It's just, can he do it more often? I think if he's going to, this defensive system certainly should help facilitate that. I think it's a better fit for somebody who plays the way he wants to play. Talked last year about how, at times he was limited because in the back of his mind he's working more on contain than being aggressive. That shouldn't be as much of an issue this year. So I don't know that it's... I think we've seen him play at a level where he can be a 3-down player. I think we have seen that. But he also goes through stretches where he can't. Like, he struggles too much against the run. He's not getting after the quarterback enough, things like that. So I just think it's about consistency. And consistency is usually the last thing to come for any player. But that's what I'm looking for with him more than anything else. So
his role in this defense is interesting because if you assume that Christian Barmore is healthy and Milton Williams is the $100 million man, right? And Christian Barmore is a very well-paid player too. Both those guys are not coming off the field a ton. They're going to play a lot, assuming health and all that kind of stuff. So they're going to be the 3 techniques. They're going to be, the 1 shades. Like, they're going to be the guys on the interior for 3 downs, most likely. So that means that Keon White's not going to be playing the 3 technique or playing over the guard on an every down basis. So the next step for him is being better on the outside. Now, he's not going to be standing up like he was in a Belichick defense in a more odd front 3-4. He's not going to be outside the tackle. He's probably going to be in like a 5 or a 4-eye, like right over the tackle. So can he play that role? Is that better suited? He'll be hand in the dirt. He'll be more up the field, which I think are things that are encouraging, but he's openly talked about in the past that he's not a great outside rusher. He's a great interior rusher. He's not great up on his feet. He's not great outside the tackle. Like, that's not an overall strength to his game. So maybe kicking him inside just even a little bit, like into that straight up over the tackle would be a 5. 4-eye is like shaded a little bit into the B gap over the inside shoulder of the tackle. Like those types of alignments, like maybe that's just enough inside that he still has that feel of rushing on the inside. I think there's some optimism with that being the case. And then in the system, you mentioned, the upfield stuff. I think last year what they got caught in is early on in the season, he was running past the quarterback a lot. He was shooting gaps and being overly aggressive to make plays in the backfield against the run. Teams are smart. It worked for the first couple weeks of the season. They watch film too, and all of a sudden you look at you see on Keon White's side, there's no contain, right? So if you run vertically up the field at Keon White, or if the quarterback escapes out the pocket that way, there's going to be open gaps, and that's sort of what got him into trouble last year. So in theory, I think this defense is a better fit for him. If there's another level to his game, and this is the reason why, big picture, that I brought it up, this defensive line has a chance to be really, really good. Barmore, Milton Williams, Keon White, they'll probably have like a designated pass rusher and a Harold Landry, in a, maybe it's a Chazon or Swinson or one of those guys will be the 9 or the 7 that's all the way outside of the tackle and really just getting up the field and rushing. So this group has a really good chance to be, especially those top 3 guys, I would say borderline elite if Keon White has another level, if there's another sort of thing for them to unlock. The other question that I had on the defensive line is one that I had coming into the draft and was wondering if they would address. I think Tonga's an okay player for the role that he's probably going to play. I still feel like they might be one run stuffer short on the interior, like pure 320-pound immovable object run stuffer. They're counting on plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage a little bit right now. And that, in the past in Tennessee, just watching some of those Titans defenses, there's a little bit of boomer bust there with that type of style. Like, you're going to make some plays, but you're also going to give up some, you're going to get gashed some playing that way. Do they need, it's not a full-time role anymore, which is why guys like Devon Godshaw aren't here anymore. They're not going to be asking nose tackles to play 40-50% of the snaps. How much do you trust Tonga? Are you at all worried about the interior run defense being firm enough?
A little bit, and at the second level too, they're smaller. I wonder, so some of it, I think Milton Williams is going to play more against the run than he did in Philly.
Right.
And they're going to count on him to grow as a run stopper. I think they drafted Joshua Farmer to be that run stopper. He's just not built like it.
Yeah.
But I would not hate it if they added another nose tackle at some point. I do think it would be a good addition. I'm kind of surprised they didn't, even in the UDFA market.
Yeah, it's definitely a secondary concern. It's not like, I'm not saying that this is why they're going to go 4-13. It's because they don't have a nose tackle, but it was something that I thought was a sneaky need in terms of depth there and just maybe some guys that can make some plays. I don't think Jeremiah Farms is really that guy either. I liked what I saw last year.
Well, he might end up being that guy just because, again, they don't have somebody else.
But I'm with you. I think Milton Williams is going to have to play a lot more against the run, and they're expecting him to be a true 3-down game wrecker, and then Barmore coming back healthy, and then it's kind of like if Keon White can take that next step, now you have 3 guys that can kind of wreck games up front, and that's the expectation. Moving to edge, your favorite position, title. Edge.
A very real position.
Hey, listen, I talked to Braden Swinson's edge coach at LSU. They literally have a coach that his position is edge. So it's a very real position. It's coming.
So he coaches deep, but like not all edge. So he's coaching the 290-pound defensive end the same way he's coaching the 250-pound outside linebacker?
He was coaching outside linebackers in your parlance. He was coaching outside linebackers.
He's an outside linebackers coach. My whole thing with edge is like, there are some players that, depending on the system, might have a different position, right?
Yeah.
Where you don't know what team they're playing for. Once they are on a team, that's where edge becomes unnecessary to me. Because in this system, that's how I feel about it. It does have a purpose, right? So like, for instance, Matthew Judon.
Yeah.
When he was a free agent, might be a defensive end some places, might be an outside linebacker some places. How do you include him? You call him an edge. I'm fine with that. Once he signed with the Patriots, he was going to be an outside linebacker. We call him an outside linebacker. So, for LSU, he's an outside linebackers coach. They call it edge, but he's an outside linebackers coach. In the draft, I'm fine calling Braden Swinson an edge because he could play either spot.
Yeah.
The other line of demarcation for me is like, does a guy cover? If he doesn't cover, he's a defensive end. If he covers, he's an outside linebacker.
That's fair. So these guys, to me, are kind of tough because they're kind of hybrids in this system. This system, they're going to be designated pass rushers most of the time. They don't drop a ton off the edge. They will do it.
So run through them, and I'll tell you what I'd consider all of them.
Harold Landry,
Linebacker.
Kalavon Chazon,
Linebacker.
Anthony Jennings.
He's right on that line. I'll call him a linebacker because that's what we played at Alabama, but he's right on that line.
Braden Swinson.
I think he's defensive end.
Elijah Ponder.
Defensive, outside linebacker. Those are all just outside linebackers.
So most of these guys, I would say, are in the outside linebacker category.
Because there's people who call like Keon White an edge.
No, he's not. He's the defensive lineman.
Right, he's defensive end.
These guys to me are also though going to play potentially a lot in a 3-point stance. Like Harold Landry played in a 3-point a lot.
Yeah,
in
you
Tennessee.
can play. You can have outside linebackers play in a 3-point stance, though.
So
didn't Willie McGinnis used to do that?
Yeah, sometimes probably.
Although I guess some people called Willie McGinnis a defensive end.
So the biggest question I had with this group, now that we can digress on the name Edge, Anthony Jennings, one of the guys, him and Tavai, that are still kicking around from holdovers from this front seven from last year. There aren't many of them, frankly, especially at these two spots. What's Anthony Jennings' fit here, and what's his future? Because I don't necessarily see a great fit in the scheme that they want to be playing, and I'm curious to see what their plan is for him because he's still on the roster, so they obviously have some sort of plan for him, and I'm curious to see what it is.
So I feel more that way about Tavai.
Tavai's with my linebackers.
Okay, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I think with Anthony Jennings, look, when he was at Alabama, he played up the field more than he did in New England.
Yeah, but then he had the injuries, and it kind of sapped his explosiveness.
One thing he's really good at, we're going back, what was he, class of 2020, right? He was the COVID draft.
Yeah.
So we're going back 5-6 years now, but one thing he was really good at Alabama that I thought they were going to take more advantage of here that they didn't. I think he had 11 batted passes his last year in college. He led an Alabama team in pass breakups that had just a loaded secondary.
Yeah.
An insane secondary. And so to me, let him get up the field, let him get into passing lanes, let him put his hands up. That's, I think, the role, is to allow him to get more aggressive and be more of a power rusher on the quarterback's throwing side, on the front side. So that's how I'd use him. I think you have a bunch of guys. Caleb Chaison's a weak side rusher to me.
Yep, he's a third down pass rusher.
Right, but you're going to put him opposite the left tackle. You're going to put him on the weak side, right?
Most likely, yep.
Who else? Swinson's probably a weak side guy.
Yeah, I think him and Chazon are competing for the designated third down pass rusher.
Landry can go on either side, but he's probably a weak side guy.
I think Landry is a strong side guy,
which is more strong side guy.
Oh, that's what he did in Tennessee, and especially towards the end. So that's where I wonder with Jennings, is Jennings' role just back up to Harold Landry? Which, look, Harold Landry's 30 now. It's not crazy to think that there might be some snaps here for him. But
do you also let maybe Jennings puts his hand in the dirt and Landry's standing up behind him? Maybe they do kind of turn Jennings into more of a full-time defensive end.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they're going to play 4 down, though, right? And you're expecting it to be, Keon White, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, Harold Landry, with Chazon maybe coming in on pass rush situations, kicking Keon even further inside, and then putting Chazon on the outside as a designated pass rusher, or maybe that ends up being Swinson, which is sort of my number 2. Is I'm very interested to see if Swinson can push Chazon right away, which I think is possible, because I think Swinson's a really talented pass rusher, really high-end pass rush skill. So there's a chance that he could push him right away. I just look at Jennings as a traditional strong side Belichick edge-setting 3-4 linebacker. That was a long way to say that. But that's the way that I look at him.
Well, this goes back to your point of edge. Can he maybe be an early down run player as a defensive end instead of as a linebacker?
hand-in-the-dirt guy? I just don't know if he's big enough for that.
He's pretty big. Isn't he 260, 270?
255, 260.
Is that it? I thought he was bigger than that.
I don't know. I'm not trying to write off anybody in this exercise in May. We haven't seen anything.
Yeah.
It's just something that has stuck with me as they turn over this roster. They've gotten away from a lot of the typical Belichick role player types, like a Juwan Bentley, right? He's not here anymore.
Right.
Anthony Jennings is one of the guys that's still here.
So that's part of the reason. If he's still here, I have to believe he's still here for a reason.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what the reason is because they know more than I do about this, so they probably have a role for him in mind.
I think he might be an early down player.
I think he'll be an early down player no matter what, but is he really going to be a 4-3 end, like with his hand in the dirt? And I don't know. I don't know if I see it. Linebacker. This is off-ball linebacker now.
Yeah.
Robert Spillane.
Yeah.
Jelani Tavai. Jack Gibbons. Christian Ellis. Monty Rice. Cam Riley. So
there's one more.
The biggest thing with this group, I think, is obviously Tavai's future. Is he going to be here? He is at his best as they used to call it the fixer, right? It was, off-ball / on-ball hybrid player.
Yeah.
Depending on the down, depending on the situation, depending on the game plan.
This is another guy that said his best is like a strong side edge setter.
And he's a tweener. He's a guy that needs to be used in a specialized role that allows him to stay away from certain things, like coverage in space as a zone dropper. He's not a pure edge rusher, in terms of pass rush, so you don't want to be using him a ton like that. So, there's ways that you have to coach around some of his limitations. What his future is here is along with Anthony Jennings, two guys that are still hanging on that I don't know if they're exactly a fit for what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, the Tavai one's fascinating because he survived all these cuts.
Yeah.
And, last year, so when he first came here, he struggled playing off the ball. They moved him to the edge, and he was much better. Last year, he had to go back off the ball because of all those injuries, and he struggled again. I would have put him in your edge category. I think he's an outside linebacker. I don't think he's an off-ball linebacker. I think he's kind of similar to Jennings. You're going to put him on the strong side on early downs. He's going to set the edge against the run. I think that's where he's at his best. You don't want him a ton in coverage. He's not great at rushing the passer, but he's a big, powerful guy that can take on blocks and hold his ground.
Yeah.
But they have Jennings to do that as well and some other guys they've brought in. So unless they're going to keep playing him off the ball where,
Well, they played him as a weak side linebacker in the past, where they don't want to put him on the side with the double team.
Well, whichever side they'll put him on somewhere but against the run. The thing for me is they bring in all these smaller, more athletic linebackers, and I kind of figured, do you still want one guy that's like 255, 260 that can play situationally, 3rd and 1, right?
Yeah.
He comes on the field. He's going to run downhill. He's going to plug a gap.
Yeah.
And they don't really have a ton of linebackers right now that are going to do that, especially not at that size. And this guy's probably going to play special teams as well. We talked about some guys during the draft that was like,
that's an interesting
are they going to
take.
take a guy later on day 3? Maybe he's just a very involved special teams player that, all right, he's going to be in a defensive package with like Kyrus Tonga and Jeremiah Farms. We got to stop the run, put him in, let him plug a hole.
I like that take because I thought they were going to keep Bentley around for that.
Right, I thought that was going to be Bentley.
But I think they decided that he has too much of a voice and too much of a leadership role on the team. And
this is like a 20, maybe 30% usage rate guy at most.
To push him all the way down the depth chart like that and play him so sparingly as a guy that's been a captain and been a leader of the defense, that was going to be a tough transition. For a lot of people, but with Tavai, maybe they feel like they could do that sort of thing and get away with it. Him coming on the field for a Gibbons, for an Ellis, in run stopping situations, that could definitely make some sense. What's your feeling so overall just about this linebacker group? Because we've gotten a lot of questions in the past. Do we like this linebacker group? Is there any concerns about it? It's not exactly like they have, Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel, and Willie McGinnis, right? This is not a star-studded linebacker group. This is much more of a stylistic fit, lunch pail kind of linebacker group. Do you feel like they have enough here at this position?
Yeah, it's changed. It's definitely changed. Again, I think that they have the ability to be more athletic, cover, play sideline to sideline. They needed that. I still would, and maybe it is Tavai, I would have liked to see them keep that one guy that can come in and play the run. But so it's changed, it's upgraded, it's more modern. But I still like just having that one old school linebacker in the mix.
Yeah, you could be right. That's a good take about Tavai. Maybe that's Tavai. Overall, about the linebacker group, I don't have a ton of concern about them not being talented enough or having enough in this room. I'll say it, and I know everything right now is very positive and everything's pointed in a good direction. Patriots fans are going to love Robert Spillane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Robert Spillane is, he's not Ray Lewis. Like, he's not Primer or Lacker. Like, he's not that kind of guy. Like, I get that. But they need somebody in this defense from the second level that's just going to clean up the trash. They're going to want the defensive line to get up the field. They're going to want those guys to make the splash plays. But every once in a while, when the running back squeaks through, who can make the tackle so that's an 8-yard gain and not an 80-yard gain, right? And that's Robert Spillane. Like, he's a firecracker out there. He plays with his hair on fire. He's sideline to sideline. He's a great tackler. It's someone's birthday. I don't know what's going on out there. So that's Robert Spillane. Like, that's the type of thing that he can do. So I wouldn't sleep on Spillane. Spillane's a good player.
Sure. I'm interested to see if Christian Ellis can take another step. He was actually playing some pretty good football at the end of the year last year.
Yeah, I think he's got a third down role in him. I think he's a coverage guy and a more athletic guy in space that can maybe do those kinds of things. All right, we're moving at a good pace here, so let's just knock these out.
All right.
Cornerback. Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis, Marcus Jones, Alex Austin, Marcellus Dial, Isaiah Bolden, DJ James, Miles Battle, Kobe Minor, Brandon Crossley are your cornerbacks.
I will
not
throw
a lot
in
of questions in this group.
He's listed as a safety for some reason. Jordan Polk is a corner.
Okay, so I have him as safety, maybe
Okay.
DB. Call him that.
Played mostly corner last year at Texas State.
So Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis are your starters day one, week one. Like, there's no questions about that. I actually don't hate their depth with Alex Austin and Dial and Bolden in terms of outside corners either. Those guys are going to hopefully, knock on wood, eat up a ton of snaps for them this year in Gonzo and Davis. And I think Alex Austin's a capable third outside corner. I think he can play that role.
He should have played. I know he was hurt, but they didn't give him enough chances last year.
The question that I have is slot corner. And
they do not have enough depth behind Marcus Jones.
So Marcus Jones is your starting nickel corner, right? Like, if you're going to play a true corner body type and a true corner skill set, then it's Marcus Jones right now. They've talked a little bit about playing a big nickel, whether that's a third safety or
probably
corner.
Craig Woodson, right?
Is it Craig Woodson? Is it Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers kind of morphing into that hybrid role again? Woodson's probably the best guy to do it in terms of what he's done in the past. Isaiah Bolden, I'm just not ready to really count on him in any capacity. Like, maybe he has a good camp, and my opinion changes there. Marcus Jones, I really like Marcus Jones as a man coverage player. I like him maybe a little bit more than some other people, but there's not a ton of size there. There's durability concerns with him always. I still think slot corner is one of those positions that I have circled in camp as, like, what are they going to do here? What's the plan? Because it's a high-stress role nowadays. It's one of the more – it's evolving into, I would say, a premium position in the NFL because of the amount of time that you're at the point of attack in the run game and because of all of the inside receivers that you have to cover. Whether that be slot receivers or even, like, pass-catching tight ends. It's a massive role in an NFL defense nowadays.
This is where I think this could be where. So we talked about this. I know you like Elijah Ponder, but the UDFA class leans a lot more offense.
Yeah.
Elijah Ponder is a good player, but you just look at the depth in front of him. If we're going to get a UDFA on defense, I think this is maybe where we get it. Now, Kobe Minor's in the mix, too. Yep. He's not a UDFA, Mr. Irrelevant.
And he projects as a slot corner as well.
So, but between Kobe Minor, Jordan Polk, Brandon Crossley, this could be a chance for one of those guys to stick on the roster. Could have to play special teams, right? But add some depth in the slot. I think Minor is somebody who would add it at both spots, right? And I think Crossley as well. But this could be a spot where one of those UDFAs or Kobe Minor steps up and earns a role.
It is the new strong side linebacker. It has been for years, but it's becoming that more and more to the point where a lot of teams are really using safety body types as in the slot to get some size in there and to get some run instincts in there. The slot, the dream slot for any NFL team right now is Brian Branch. Like, Brian Branch is absolutely the quintessential slot player at this point in the NFL in Detroit. He's the best one in the league. And he's more of a safety than he is a corner. Man coverage and being able to cover like that isn't as big of a priority.
And this is a guy that has gotten completely forgotten about this offseason. Is this where, should we bring Marte Mapu into this conversation?
Yeah, so here's the safeties. Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, Craig Woodson, Jalen Hawkins, Marte Mapu, Marcus Epps, Del Pettis, Josh Minkins, and I have Jordan Polk here, but you're telling me he's not here, but whatever. Jordan Polk.
Yeah.
Also. So my two bigger questions here were obviously that third safety spot. Like, are they looking for a nickel safety, or are they looking for the true free safety because they want Duggar or Peppers to play nickel safety?
Right.
How do they go about that, unpacking that puzzle? And then the other thing I just think it's worth mentioning, since we did with Jennings and Tavai, like, are Duggar and Peppers 100% entrenched here? Like, are they safe? Now,
as long as they're healthy.
I think they are, because contractually they just signed those extensions, and it's not easy to get out of them this quickly, and all that kind of stuff as well plays a factor here. But how do you view the third safety? Because this could be a big determining factor in all of this puzzle, putting this puzzle together in the back end. You have Gonzo and Davis on the outside. To me, are the two only guys in this secondary that I'm 100% certain where they're going to play. Like, these safeties, like, you could convince me of any different type of combination of, Craig Woodson's going to be the free safety, Craig Woodson's going to be the nickel, Craig Woodson's going to be a box safety, and same thing with Peppers and Duggar. Like, they could be anywhere.
Well, you know me. I want the true free safety. I'm interested to see where Marcus Epps is at health-wise.
Yeah.
And, how he looks. He's played, some good football. He's coming off torn ACL. Craig Woodson, if he's back there. If you're going to put a safety close to the line of scrimmage, it should be Duggar Peppers. That's where those guys are better. Keep those guys close to the line of scrimmage. Find somebody else to play on the back end, whether it's Epps, whether it's Woodson.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Kyle Duggar and Peppers, one of those two guys, they both kind of done it in the past and taken turns playing as like a nickel safety. I think those two guys can be really good players in that role. They can blitz. They can set the edge against the run. They can come downhill at the line of scrimmage. They can handle some of the more stressful zone drops that, like, a linebacker type we wouldn't necessarily want to handle. If they have to drop into a zone in cover 3, right, and they have to pick up the crosser coming from the other side of the formation. Like, they can do those types of things. They can play in different roles, run the shoot, right, in a Tampa 2 or in a quarters coverage. If somebody goes to split the safeties right up the middle in cover 2, like, I could see Kyle Duggar being able to carry that safety or carry that tight end or whoever's running up the middle a lot better than a linebacker. So I like them in those roles. That would mean Craig Woodson most likely, or Marcus Epps potentially would have to then be the true free safety. I think that's their best defense. Yeah. Duggar or Peppers in the slot, the other guys playing the strong safety box role, Woodson or Epps up top. Like, I hope that's what we get to eventually with this group. I'd feel pretty good about that secondary with Gonzo and Davis on the outside of that group in the middle. You feel pretty good about it. Really quickly on the kickers.
Yes. I didn't have to cut you off. I was getting ready to cut you off and be like, don't forget.
Bryce Behringer, John Parker Romo, Andy Borgalis, and Julian Ashby. So we know Behringer and Ashby are going to be your punter and long snapper. Alex Barth, is there a kicker competition?
There is.
I don't think there is.
Well,
they drafted the guy.
They're going to go through one, whether or not there's anything behind it or it's just academic. Let me put it this way: I think John Parker Romo is going to be on the team through the end of camp.
Okay.
Or club, maybe they, a day or two before. But, I last year, didn't it feel kind of neck and neck going in last year?
Yes.
Right? Like, this, people were saying, well, does, Ryland have an advantage because he was on the team? Maybe a little bit. This, to me, feels like Parker, it's Romo's job to lose. It's Borgalis' job to lose, right?
Borgalis would have to be terrible.
Right, he's starting ahead. And honestly, I think they want to see maybe just how the kid handles some pressure. Maybe just have another guy here, see how he handles it. So it should be Borgalis. This is not as much of a toss-up as last year, but I think they are still going to go through the exercise to see how the kid handles it and just to make sure.
Okay, that's it. And then I have Brendan Schooler as the coverage ace, and I believe, kick coverage, special teams ace, Matthew Slater.
I think he might still play. I wouldn't. Longhorn package stick around?
It was effective.
Yeah, I don't think that goes away entirely.
It was the one wrinkle from that coaching staff last year that worked. So
I don't think that goes away entirely. Now, maybe it looks different, but he was able to he was aggressive in getting after the quarterback. That's what they want from he was essentially playing linebacker more than safety.
Yeah, he was, and I say this a little tongue-in-cheek, he was legitimately one of their best pass rushers.
No,
when he was on
it was effective. So
it worked.
I kind of hope that doesn't go away entirely. It might look different and it might not be as much, but keep that in place a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have him in the coverage area right now. He's going to be on the team. But I
do
we'll see.
wonder
We'll see if this coaching staff tries him out on defense at all.
I do wonder. I mean, they've been pretty locked into the kicker handling kickoffs the last few years.
Yeah.
It's not like that everywhere. I do wonder if they open it up for kickoffs between Borgalis and Behringer. They're both bigger guys. They can both handle themselves in coverage. They both have a big leg. I wonder if they open that up, or, you see some teams now, and the Patriots kind of flirted with this last year in camp. I don't think I'm trying to remember if they ever did it in a game, because it's so specialized now. And, all right, we want to put the ball in this spot on this trajectory. We want to put the ball here with this kind of kick. If there is a Borgalis kickoff package and a Behringer kickoff package just based on their ability to hit different kicks.
Interesting. All right. So that's the defense and the special teams, because we had to get special teams in there. So the last 45 minutes of the show is all you guys. We got calls, we got emails. So let's start it off. Hopefully he's still there. What's up, Patty and Agawam? How we doing?
I'm still here, guys.
Love it. What's up, Patty?
Not too much. Just want to go over a few things. I'll make them quick. Evan, maybe Alex can't get you sold on golfing, but, dude, I'm telling you, maybe once you're a little bit older, there's nothing more relaxing than grabbing a few beers, throwing them in a cooler, getting on a golf cart, and just having a good time, because I don't know about Alex. I don't really play competitively.
No.
I just go to play to have fun. And
So I think that's my problem, and I think, Patty, you're right. Maybe in my older age, this will go away. I was not a good athlete. I'll put that out there, but I was extremely competitive.
Well, me.
So when I golf, the part that frustrates, I stink.
But
and it
me, I'm very
out of
competitive, and I'm not good, and I make it work.
I
can make it work.
I can't do leisurely pastime. If I'm playing a sport, I'm competing.
But if you go in knowing you're bad, it's easier because you're just trying to get better. On the other side, though, somebody in the chat did offer to buy you a gaming console, so one step closer to that.
Evan, listen, if you game, dude, I'll go buy a console if you guys go on Twitch. I've never been on Twitch, but if the two of you make that happen, I'll make it happen too, just so I can have more of your content, because I'm a junkie when it comes to you guys. The last two things I'll touch on, it's funny you guys were going over roster resets. I don't think that the roster construction is done by any means. Of course, they got to get through cuts and everything, but I think the final 53, I think they're going to, I'm crazy. I think they're going to add a receiver somehow, some way. But Alex, I think around last year around this time, and this is the last thing, I gave you a name. It was either last year or 2 years ago. I gave you the name of Joe Griffin Jr. from Boston College, wide receiver. He didn't pan out, but I'm going to give you another guy to look at. And I know it's way too early to get into college football.
Never too early.
And he shares a name with another wide receiver, but Elijah Moore, 6'4" X guy, 205 pounds, plays for Florida State. I think he was a redshirt freshman last year. But he's getting a lot of play right now. There's a lot of people are thinking that he's going to have a breakout year, and maybe 2 years from now we're too good and we don't have enough capital to trade for Jeremiah Smith. But that's a name to, if he has a big couple years, to look out. And that's all I got.
All right.
Thanks, Patty. Thanks for the call. Everybody is going to try to get me into golf. I'm telling you, it's like Peloton. You got to try Peloton. It's great.
It's not like that. You can't drink while. I guess you could drink while doing Peloton, but you probably shouldn't.
Just saying
That would
because
be
I know it's
awesome. Drinking while
aggravating
Pelotoning.
I actually would prefer to Peloton than to golf. I'm not going to lie.
Horrible take.
I'm not going to lie.
It takes a long time to get good at golf, and if you are competitive, I'm the exact same way. It's like, I'm just going to go hit the driving range for $20 a pop for 4 months before I could step onto a course. No.
It's just I get 3 or 4 holes in, and I'm done. It's just not for me.
But if you just don't expect yourself to be that good.
It's
just
not
be
even
realistic
just about that,
it.
though. It's I'm terrible. I think, and this is ultimate lazy.
Yeah.
If I've never done it. I played 1 round with a cart. I played probably 5 rounds of golf in my life. 4 of them I walked, and 1 of them.
So
was a
I
cart.
will say,
those numbers are not exact.
I used to always walk, and then 2 years ago I was playing with my buddies at a really hilly course, and they're going up to the last holes, this big hill in the woods, and we were just feeling it. And we got up to the top of the hill, we looked at each other, and we're like, we're too old to be walking. So, like,
Yeah.
I'll occasionally walk 9. I play with a cart most of the time now. If I'm playing 18, I'm absolutely playing with a cart.
Yeah,
I
cart's the only
definitely
way to
could be
go.
swayed by the cart.
We'll get you out there this summer. This is going to happen.
No.
Yes.
Just do the driving.
Chris is in the original England, so across the pond. What's up, Chris? Chris, you there? All right,
Chris, what do you got?
give us a call back, Chris, and we'll get you on. All right, let's get to some of these emails. Lots of emails pouring in. I can't
Yeah.
speak. You know this guy. Brownie's emailing in. My college roommate.
Okay.
You knew Brownie back in
Yes.
the day.
Is this about the Eagles?
It's about the schedule release. But yeah, I assume that Brownie's like me with the Celtics. Like, I still wear the championship hat for the Celtics.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that he's still walking around in the
Sure.
championship hat for the Eagles. So Brownie's a big Eagles fan. Shout out to my guys in PA. But what is your favorite NFL stadium you have traveled to? This is a good question. I do keep track. I think I'm like, this is a humble brag, but I think I've been to like 24.
Oh, do you have a running list?
I do keep track. I can pull it up real quick.
How many have I been to?
It's probably much easier at this point to tell you the stadiums I haven't been to than the ones I have been to. So I've been to 24. I was right. So the stadiums I haven't been to, Carolina, Bank of America in Carolina, Lumen in Seattle, which is a bummer. I can't wait to get to that one. Energy in Houston, never been there. Raymond James in Tampa, which I'll check off this year, which I'm excited about. And I've never been to SoFi because it's so new. I haven't been yet. So those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stadiums I haven't been to. So my answer for my favorite is different from I have two different answers to this question. Yeah. There's a difference between my favorite stadium I've been to and like the most historic, coolest venue I've been to. So the nicest stadium in the league is in Vegas, and it's not particularly close. Like the Raiders stadium is unbelievable. Like the only one that's come close is Jerry World. Like that's the only one that's even in the same stratosphere. I would say like Lambeau's Lambeau. Like
I still got to get to Lambeau.
Like Lambeau's Lambeau. It's just there's a feel to it. Like you walk, it's not an impressive stadium. It's a little bit like Gillette. It's kind of just a stadium, but you go there, and it's just you see Curly Lambeau and Bart Starr and all of the great Packers just like around the Ring of Honor, and you just know the history and like the players that have played in that stadium. There's absolutely no other feeling besides. No, I'd say Lambeau is probably in its own category in that regard.
I think my favorite. People are going to be surprised to hear me say this. I have 2 that are towards top. Buffalo.
Well, that stadium just stinks, though.
That's what football should be.
Oh,
it's loud, it's rowdy, it's metal bleachers, it's open, it's old school.
It's about to close.
I know, it's a shame. That's a real football stadium. That's a college environment. And then Pittsburgh.
I knew that's why you liked it.
Pittsburgh's really cool too.
Pittsburgh's all right. I've kind of gotten over Pittsburgh because we've been so many times.
It's the same thing.
Again, I know that sounded.
It's a cool stadium. Elite media spread. Elite.
It is good.
But it's also like it's a cool building. It's a historic building. All that. I know I actually can answer my least favorite easier than my favorite.
What's your least favorite?
MetLife.
Oh yeah.
And I understand why it's like this, but it's faceless.
So I describe MetLife to people like, like when Lego has like football stadium.
Yeah.
It's just the Lego set.
It's just the generic.
It's literally like football stadium. Like that's what I would call it. Like that's it. That's all it is. It's just generic football stadium.
It's hard to get to.
Yeah.
We got lost one year driving there. We worked for CLNS.
It's not good. So I would say
just from a media standpoint.
Yeah.
For a 1:00 game.
Yeah.
The sun comes right into the press box and you get cooked.
Oh, those are the type that you tell me that I complain about things
that's fair.
Yeah. So
Allegiant, honestly, anybody sitting in that corner, but yeah.
Allegiant, in AT&T in Dallas, you're walking into Jerry World and walking out into this it's just huge and it's impressive. It's an impressive stadium. For the history, I would say it's definitely Lambeau is one of its own. Arrowhead, it just the atmosphere at Arrowhead is just off the charts.
Well, that's me with Buffalo. I haven't been any of those. I have been to, so Atlanta was the same thing. Like, I walked into Atlanta.
Atlanta's impressive.
And
too.
I was there before the Super Bowl because I went for Alabama, Florida State when they were 1-3 in the country a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, that is a football cathedral. Like, that building is so impressive.
Absolutely.
And then I haven't been for an event, but I went on a tour when I was in college. The Minnesota Stadium is very impressive too, and I like how
that's a good shout.
I'm pretty anti-indoor stadium generally as a rule.
I love domes,
but I know because the nerds. But as far as indoor stadiums go,
weather to be
look, they don't let the weather get in, which sucks. But there is a ton of natural light in there compared to a lot of indoor stadiums.
Minnesota was one of the cooler environments. The one time I've been to Minnesota, and we're going to go back potentially this year, but the one time that I went to Minnesota was Thanksgiving night, Hunter Henry reaching across the goal line. And they had a great in-game presentation. The skull chant hits.
I want to see the skull chant. Like, again, I went for a tour. I wasn't there for a game,
fantastic.
So I didn't get to see that.
Like, it definitely it hits. Like, it's really cool. Their intros were really cool. They had fake snow like coming down and like
real snow.
You had fake snow coming down and you just skull like really cool. And hopefully we get there with like Drake May or something like that. But when they do the individual player intros and you have a player of Justin Jefferson's caliber, like, and it's inside, so the noise is. I mean, it is like God himself just walked onto the football field. Like, that's how it feels like. And it was really cool that night. It's prime time, Thanksgiving night. He was just coming off that game in Buffalo where he made the crazy one-handed catch. And Justin Jefferson comes onto the field, and it is just one of the loudest atmospheres you'll ever be in.
What was I going to say? Indy was cool. That building's huge.
Yeah, Indy's like, a lot of these domes, Indy, Arizona, not necessarily like the most historic of places or anything, but they're well designed. They're domes. They're indoors, so they're big and impressive.
Yeah.
Arizona is one of those places that it's so obvious why they host Super Bowls there.
Right.
Like, the weather's
it's
perfect.
Built for big events.
It's just a really nice layout. All right, there's your stadium minute. It's a good question for schedule release day. Jeff emails in from LA, and we talked about this. We touched on it briefly. Why is nobody giving Wes Schweitzer a chance at left guard? Cole Strange, Layden Robinson, and City So get named the most, and we never hear about Schweitzer.
He hasn't played in like 3 years.
Well, he has started more games than those guys, and that was what he brought up, which is all fair.
But I think all but 4 or 5 of those are pre-2020.
Yeah, I used the comparison earlier. I stand by it. Wes Schweitzer to me is very similar to Michael Jordan last year. If nobody is ready from that younger group to play right away out of the gate, then you start Wes Schweitzer for the first month, 5 weeks of the season, whatever the case may be, and you get those guys ready. But like, you shouldn't be in that position. Cole Strange is going into year 3. Layden Robinson's going into year 2. City So's going into year 3. Cole Strange going into year 4 or year 3? Jesus Christ.
22, 23, 24, year 4.
Jeez,
no,
flies.
he was 22.
20.
Draft,
it's year 4.
Jeez.
So yeah, like, those guys aren't rookies anymore, where you're worried about them being ready to play the position. So I think that's why they shouldn't need Schweitzer. That doesn't mean he won't make the team, but they shouldn't need him.
So Schweitzer started 62 games in his career. 13 of those, all but 13 were 2020 or earlier. He's only started 2 games in the last 2 years, none last year. He's only played 10 games total in the last 2 years.
Yeah, because he's really a career backup. Like, he's a nice backup to have. Like, those guys have value. Sometimes nowadays they're veteran practice squad players, but they have value because they've played games in the league. They've been around. Like, if you needed a spot start, like, would they spot start Wes Schweitzer over a rookie or a Jack Conley or something? Like, probably, right? That's like why those types of guys are around. Chris has a question, and we've gotten this question a bunch too, as well, just on all the shows. Like, Mac Hollins and his security on the roster. Chris lays it out. I'm not going to read the whole email, but why is Mac Hollins considered a lock? I think both of us have sort of said he's a lock. Lock might be strong. I think he's a probable player to make the roster. I think there's a world where he doesn't, because it's not like they have all this money tied up into him that it's impossible. But I think it's a couple of reasons to me. They need a glue guy in that room, and I know that not a lot of people want to look into that too much and don't like the culture stuff, but the reality is that room last year was a mess, and they're trying to change the culture of that room, so they kind of need that glue guy type. Matt Collins, throughout his career, has been known to be that. He has familiarity in Josh McDaniels' offense. He played with McDaniels, had his best year under McDaniels in Vegas. We're talking about Schweitzer as being a bridgey type player. Like, Matt Collins, to me, in terms of his role on the field, is sort of a bridgey player to Kyle Williams. Like, if Kyle Williams is not ready to play the X week 1 of the season right out of the gate in September, Matt Collins can go out there, he can run the wind sprints, he can be the sacrificial X, and they don't have to throw guys like Kyle Williams directly into the fire right away if they don't want to. Special team standout, I think that has to be mentioned too. But I would just find it hard to believe that Matt Collins isn't here. I know not everybody's not super impressed with him as a player. I think he's a little underrated. Like, I'm not saying he's Randy Moss, but like his year in Buffalo last year wasn't terrible. Like, if you watch the film, like his film isn't terrible. I don't think he's as bad as some people think, but I understand that he's not the most exciting out of this group either. Where do you stand right now with Matt Collins?
Yeah, I mean, he's maybe one step below a lock, but he'd certainly be a surprise as a cut. Like, they need an X. He can play the X. Yeah. Like you said, the leadership stuff. I think you pretty much nailed that.
So this is from Ashton in Canada. He is wondering what we think Pop Douglas's ceiling is, and where does he need to improve on to achieve his ceiling?
Hang on. This thing's like...
I would say, are you good over there?
I think so. I want to make sure it's like in the right spot. So he keeps... All right. I mean, where he needs to improve is just availability, right? He's been kind of banged up his first couple of years, so staying on the field. And that's the big thing to me. Like, on top of that, I think he can be, a really good secondary option. Maybe work on his contested catch ability a little bit. But, like, I mean, I think he is a legitimate top 3 receiver in an NFL wide receiver room.
His ceiling, I think he's close to it.
Yeah.
I think he's right about there. He's a third receiver. Like, he's a slot in 11 personnel, right? I don't think he's a base receiver that's going to play in your base packages. He's a slot-only 50-60% ideally, but when he comes in, he makes an impact, and he makes plays. His ability to separate against man coverage is good. It's a above average to really good trait of his. I would say the next step for him on the field is really learning how to run routes against zone a little bit more consistently. Sometimes when he sees zone, he doesn't always find those pockets, right? He's not always very quarterback friendly and doesn't find the pockets, and he's not the biggest of targets to begin with, so that works against him too. But you'll see, like last year, a couple times where the big one is obviously the interception to end the game against the Rams, but like just in general, where Drake May really wants him to sit or settle in the zone, and he's kind of still running, and like then he like kind of comes back late to it and maybe has to make an adjustment on a catch. That's what takes those types of slot guys from like what Pop Douglas is doing right now over the first 2 years of his career to being like Wes Welker, Julian Edelman volume, right? 120 plus targets. Can you develop that sixth sense and that ability to find the openings when you do see zone? It's not all going to be man-to-man, and it's not all going to be matchup-based. You have to be able to get open there. So I would say that that's the biggest thing for him as well. All right. This question I think is an obvious answer, but like we can just kind of couch it like this. Which rookie do you think will have the biggest impact on the season? Let's take Will Campbell out of it because I think that one's obvious.
Should be Kyle Williams. Yeah. Ideally, it's Kyle Williams. Like he's in a position where like there's not a ton of competition for him, especially if Diggs isn't going to start the year. They should be throwing the ball more with Drake May, and he's an explosive player. I'm going to say Kyle Williams.
I'm going to say I agree, but just for the sake of being different, I think TreVeyon Henderson is going to have a big impact.
Okay.
I think TreVeyon Henderson has a chance to be. My guess is that it might not manifest itself in him being the true number one running back in the rotation in the snaps or volume standpoint. But I think his big playability is just going to be infectious. Like I think it's going to be hard to keep him off the field when they really need points because of how he can flip the field. And I think that's going to be just huge for them in general. They just really haven't had that here in quite some time. And I think they might have it with Kyle Williams too. But I feel better just in terms of actually being able to take explosive plays, chunks out, whatever you want to call it. Like, I think Travion Henderson's going to do that instantly. Whereas with Kyle Williams, like, there might be more of an adjustment with the routes and the roll and all that kind of stuff. But both those guys should be able to make an instant impact in terms of all of that. All right, this is another question here from Bart in Poland. That Bart, I'm sorry I haven't gotten to this question sooner because he's emailed in like 3 weeks in a row trying to get to this question. So I wanted to ask about Will Campbell and his potential transition to left guard, which he's not going to do, but it's okay. I know it's often said that it's the worst case scenario. But he's said that he's heard multiple people mention that his stance at left tackle might make the transition tougher because he'd likely have to adjust his stance. So he does have at least at LSU, and I don't know if he was coached this way. Emory Jones, the right tackle at LSU, did it too, but not quite as pronounced as Will Campbell. Will Campbell does have like an upright stance. I'm not talking about how he plays once this ball is snapped, but like when he actually gets to the line of scrimmage, he does have like sort of an unorthodox upright stance to him. But what I think is really good about him is that once the ball is snapped, like he's got great sink and lower body flexibility to get his pads down instantly. It's just the way he stands. Literally like way he literally stands.
It's like a guy with a weird batting stance.
Yeah, where the way the ball is snapped. Now, is that something that needs to be fixed or changed? I don't know. I would tend to lean towards don't mess with it unless it becomes a problem. It was kind of like how they would talk about Drake May's throwing motion when we talked to them about that. Like, if he starts to lose control of the ball and we see a lot more of those sprays, then maybe you want to tighten it up and change, the actual arm motion. But if his accuracy is fine, then why would you mess with it?
Right.
You're just messing with it just to mess with it because it doesn't look aesthetically great. I think the same thing is true with Will Campbell.
Well, I like the batting stance comparison because a lot of these guys with weird batting stances, right? Like Kevin Youkilis, he's all the way up here and his his head's in his arms or whatever.
Yeah.
As the pitcher gets ready to throw, you watch and he kind of sinks back into a more normal stance. Standing that way is more just like a timing mechanism. And a lot of these guys, name anybody with a weird batting stance, right?
Gary Sheffield.
Gary Sheffield's actually an exception to this. But
oh no,
Chuck Knobloch is one. Like he'd have the bat all the way over there, but gets into a position where he's more loaded up as the pitch is coming.
Yeah.
Like as long as you can get into that position in time, like you said.
Yeah, it's a good comparison.
It's not an issue.
That's the way I look at it. Now I don't know if that's.
I'll give you another one. Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill just stands there before the snap. You wouldn't coach, or Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
You wouldn't coach a guy to stand like that, but they can get to where they need to get to once the play starts, and that's ultimately what you care about.
Ashton Genty is a good comparison because he has that weird, upright
He just stands there.
Literally just stands there.
I think Sheffield kept doing that thing until he was really ready to swing. Maybe I'm misremembering.
All right, let's get back to the phones.
Right.
Brad is in Ohio. What's up, Brad?
Hey, crew. How you doing today?
Hey.
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Got a couple quick questions real quick. You're all insightful so much. So I want to ask, do you think that it'll be McDaniels or Diggs that'll help Pop, Williams, or Polk kind of transcend to the next, be able to, like we were talking about, get better, based on which one of those players do you look making the largest leap or benefit to our team is the first question I had. And then which guard, given City Sells a left guard, like I believe Evan said that before, his position of, originality, and which one would fit best in Josh McDaniels' offense with, given the three we have that you have just mentioned? And then do you think the fullback and Dupree, because of the blocking ability and the way McDaniels structures the offense, both have an opportunity to make the team? And then my last question or, statement was, with Diggs and Bourne and the ones that's going to teach mostly about helping the guys Do you think Baker's out, or will it be Booty, in your opinion? Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Brad. Those were a lot of questions, so we'll try to get to all of them. In terms of receivers, Polk, Baker, Williams, I think we're all the most optimistic about Kyle Williams right now because he's the unknown guy, right? He's the rookie we haven't seen before. I'm still, and again, the way I would try to phrase this, I guess, is like, I'm hoping for the best, but expecting the same out of Jalen Polk. Like, I hope that it works out for him. I hope that last year there's a lot of, excuses the wrong word, there's a lot of caveats to last year for Jalen Polk. It wasn't a great coaching staff. It wasn't a great situation for a rookie wide receiver. There's a lot of reasons to point to it and just kind of be willing to throw out Jalen Polk's rookie season. With that being said, though, there's not a ton of precedent for a player coming in as a rookie, having such little production and so many struggles as a rookie, and then going on to blossoming into being a true contributor. Like, it just, I'm not saying you can't be an NFL player, but to go from that to being instantly like a good player, or the player that people projected coming out of college, Jacoby Myers, Tyler Boyd type of receiver, I just think there's a long way to go for that to be a reality. And I would say the same thing about Javon Baker. I'm not writing them off. I'm just not expecting anything. I think that's sort of the difference. Whereas with Kyle Williams, I kind of have some expectations for him right now. Like, I think Kyle Williams, they have a chance to really hit with Kyle Williams, and I'm expecting them to. Almost, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'll answer the guard one. To me, City So's the favorite because he is a true left guard, and I think he plays the game more of a mauler than the other two, which is what they want, which is what Josh McDaniels has historically wanted in his guard. So, to me, like, City So's the best fit. Does that mean he's the best player? We'll find out. But remember, he had a good year as a rookie, and he had a really good summer last year before he got hurt. He just never really bounced back from that.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, and he's the biggest out of the three guys, just from a measurable standpoint. Which, if they want to get back to those like mauling guards and in the McDaniels, downhill scheme, I think Layden Robinson, he's smaller, like literally smaller, but he's also kind of like a mauler and has good play strength to him. Really, the only guy that I don't think fits is Strange. Like, Cole Strange is his own guard.
No, he's a center in this scheme.
Yeah, but he's I think both those guys, Robinson and so, mix it up in the run game and like have a good, solid foundational play strength to their game that would lend themselves to playing in more of like a gap scheme or a downhill scheme, like we've seen from McDaniels in the past. Email here from Dave in San Jose. His question is, what trade value, if any, do any of the wide receivers have? Even a late round pick, just talking about the logjam numbers-wise at wide receiver. I still think the guy that has the most value, which is the reason why he's been floated in rumors, is Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah.
And I think that's why his name is out there and nobody else's name is out there. Kendrick Bourne is kind of going into a season where he needs to rebuild his stock in the NFL hierarchy just because of last year and the ACL 2 years ago. Kayshon Boutte, to me, seems like the guy that maybe even they're trying to sell. Like, frankly, just with all the rumors that have been out there, he's been somebody that's just, there's always a reason why the guy's name's out there. And I would say it's not because they necessarily don't see him being on the team or having a role on the team. I think it's more that, hey, if we can get a third or a fourth round pick for Kayshon Boutte, wouldn't we be a little bit crazy not to do that?
Yeah, it's clearly him. And I'll say this on Bourne. If Bourne does enough this summer to prove that he has trade value, they should probably be keeping him.
Yeah.
Because it means he's playing well, and we know that it works with him and Josh McDaniels.
That's fair. All right. Jake says there would 100% be an audience for Catch-22 on Twitch playing Dynasty in CDB. Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah. So what is CDB?
Maybe he meant CFB.
CFB?
I'm
yeah.
He meant CFB.
Well, so it basically, I think what he meant, because I've had people ask me about this, like, where instead of playing against each other, like, we do a franchise and we build the team. I'll let you call the plays and be the quarterback. I'll be the receiver.
So he said what he would want us to do is to each build our own separate teams in the same conference.
Yeah, in college football.
And then play each other.
See, I feel like it'd be better in Madden because then we'd be doing like free agency and the draft and stuff. Because you're not going to get recruiting. That's going to frustrate you. I know that. But
is it like Do they have like scenes? Like, is it like you walk into somebody's
No,
like,
it's
living
like you
room
have
and
like
to make an elevator pitch.
You can't actually see it, but so like you have a certain number of points, right?
Yeah.
And depending on your coach and your school, you have different. Every school has a different number of points to work with, but each week you like spend your points. You can You can DM recruits.
Yeah.
You don't get to choose what you say, but like these are what you're spending your time on. DM recruits, talk to family. There's one that's like send the house, which is everything. And I forget what the middle one is. I never used that. But then there's also like you can like scout. You can spend time scouting. You can spend time just doing other things like that.
I'm out.
Yeah, I don't. That's not for you. No, I think it would
much.
be me versus you. We'd figure out some way to do it in Madden or CFB. But the people want to watch it. The people do want to watch it.
Brownie emails back in as someone that has golfed with me before, which is true. I think I've golfed with him at least once. And he says, as someone who has golfed with Evan, I would agree with him. Better to stay off the course. But a cart would help, is what he said. Yeah, Brownie knows. He knows how I have no patience for the game of golf. Ryan is in Virginia. What's up, Ryan?
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I got two comments and a hypothetical that I'll listen to off air. I understand that, like, you said, Matt Collins would be the glue guy. I know that in the past, people have seen Kendrick Bourne as the glue guy. I also think that, like, my comment, though, is that he's, like, sneaky divisive, especially with the Bailey Zappi and, like, Mac Jones situation. I think he's, like, undermined a lot of the room in the past. Even though he has, like, the smile and facade, I just don't really, like, I feel like he's low-key not a good glue guy. My other comment is I think this heavily depends on Drake May's development for the second-year jump. So my hypothetical for you is you'd rather see Drake May have like a 37 touchdown to 17 turnover ratio, or he's down at like 24 touchdowns and he keeps the turnovers under 10. I'll do that off air. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, Ryan, that's a great call because this is I'm curious about your answer to that first.
Yeah, you know what my answer to that is.
The low turnover numbers.
Yeah, the nerds, they want to tell you turnovers don't matter, so they can prop up
right.
their.
So that,
well, I'll say this.
that was why I thought it was a good question because I thought that this is where we were.
But like you want them to score.
Yes.
That's a weird question. It's a good question, but it's a weird question because, all right, 24 touchdowns. Does Travion Henderson punch 10 touchdowns in from the 1 yard line? Right? Like, it's so dependent on the context. Cutting down the turnovers is a big must for Drake May this season. He was over turnover per game guy last year. Like, that needs to come down. I look at, can you get through the season at a turnover per game flat, like as a maximum? Can he get through the season with that? But, you know, if he's at like 20 turnovers, but he throws close to 40 touchdowns, that's pretty good. So it's very, but at the same time, let's say he only throws 22 touchdowns, but they're a top 5 offense in football because they keep getting inside the 5 and just running the ball in, which we know Josh McDaniels likes to do.
Yeah.
He probably had a pretty good season, even if the stats aren't there. So cutting down the turnovers is important. I don't, putting an exact number to the same thing. If he has less interceptions, if it's 22 touchdowns but 10 interceptions, but he fumbles the ball another 10 times, versus if it's the 17 interceptions but that's it and he doesn't fumble, there's so much context missing there. It's tough to answer that question.
Okay, so just to pull it up because, you knew I was going to go here. So last year, Josh Allen had 28 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, won MVP of the league.
And that's not a lot of touchdowns. Well, it was a fake MVP, but
won MVP of the league.
Fake MVP.
Joel
Embiid won MVP one time.
Oh my God,
he did.
He also had 13 rushing touchdowns.
So so there's that thing
So
too.
he had 41 rushing touchdowns to 6 interceptions.
41 total touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, 41 total touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He fumbled 5 times, but I don't know if those are all lost. But let's just call it 41 and 11 was his ratio.
Yeah.
That's why you win MVP of the league, right? Like those are MVP numbers.
Yeah, no, that would be Lamar had more MVP numbers, but sure.
Just he was
by default their MVP numbers.
He was first or second for the MVP.
If Drake May can do that, great. I think
he's not going to do that.
I know he's not going to do that, but I think just putting it on touchdowns, interceptions removes a lot of context.
So just for the sake of the discussion, because I think that this is the volatility question that's really being asked. So in 2023, where Josh Allen also had a really good season, but he was 29 touchdowns, passing touchdowns to 18 interceptions.
Yeah, that's too many.
So that right there is what I think I could see Drake May doing in the ballpark of like this season, right? Is a guy that's around 30 total touchdowns.
18 interceptions.
But I don't know if it's going to be 18.
That's
but
a lot.
I think the biggest worry that it's not even the nerd stuff. Like obviously, there's been a lot of recent studies, just to explain to people what Alex is talking about. Like there's been a lot of recent studies in nerdum world about turnovers and how backbreaking are they really and how important are they really. Obviously, nobody wants to turn the ball over, right? Like let's
the
get
nerds
that.
are kind of
Don't do that. Nobody wants to turn the ball over.
Saying they're okay is very close to wanting it.
They're not saying it's okay.
They are saying it's okay.
They're saying that the old coach speak is turnovers lose football games. Turnovers are catastrophic.
They do. There's no stat. What is it? There's no stat more indicative of wins and losses besides final score than turnover margin.
Except passing EPA, which is
a real stat.
Which is what we're getting
No,
to
or
here.
did the nerds make up that stat? Because this is what they do. All right, we really like Josh Allen, but he's turning the ball over a lot. Let's pull some formula out of thin air that de-emphasizes turnovers. This all started happening with Josh Allen and a couple other quarterbacks too. But like they wanted to downplay the turnovers so they could say that the guys they like were better. So they created a formula that downplayed turnovers and said, "See, look."
Some of the things that they looked at. Passing EPA is probably the biggest one, and Ben Johnson has famously said the most important stat, other than the score, is passing game EPA. Passing game EPA is the big one. Explosive plays is the other big one. It's now been determined that essentially one explosive play, a drive, is a scoring drive, two is a touchdown drive on the whole, in terms of the averages. So what I'm getting at, what we're all driving at here in terms of all this is it better to hunt the explosives and hunt the efficiency and not put as much emphasis on protecting the football as it is, to the caller's point? Like if Drake May has a season, Josh Allen's second season in the NFL was 20-9.
It's just
so you can sit there and say he only threw 9 picks. That's really good, but he also didn't have the upward of the ceiling of the offense.
I just think it's so context dependent. What kind of offense do you have? What are you trying to accomplish? What kind of players do you have around you? I don't think there is a definitive answer to that because there's so many other variables. Here's the way I'd put it. What would be more encouraging to you, Evan? Drake May is, and we're going to extremes here, but you'll understand where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Drake May is a top 10 to 15 quarterback, but the Patriots finished top 5 in offense. Or Drake May is a top 5 quarterback, but the Patriots finished top 10 to 15 in scoring offense.
So basically Justin Herbert, because that's Justin Herbert. You can aesthetically say Justin Herbert's like a top 5 quarterback in the league, but maybe last year they crept into the top, but he hasn't. They haven't. But that's Justin Herbert.
Don't use a nerd number here. I'm specifically talking about points because the idea being, if Drake May is getting them into scoring opportunities regularly, even if he's not directly responsible for the scoring play itself.
Yeah.
That's more encouraging than, all right, well, Drake May threw a bunch of touchdowns, but they didn't really have anything going besides that. And
I have to see how it looks.
I guess it's tough to
because if it's Mac Jones.
Do you get what I'm saying,
though?
But
if it's Mac Jones' rookie season, then I don't want to.
So that's kind of what I'm saying.
I don't want to turn Drake May into that. And that's my fear.
I'm not saying turn him into. I'm not saying
that's my fear of overstressing.
I'm not saying the approach. I'm not saying necessarily that's the internal approach. Let's just say it falls that way, going the way that they want to go about it.
My concern is, and I'm not saying this is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying my concern with this conversation is that they are going to put kid gloves on him and put him on, training wheels on.
It's not even kid gloves.
They are going to, I don't want them to overemphasize you cannot turn the ball over in trade for playmaking. I'd rather him turn the ball over a little bit more than you would like, but still make the high-end plays. But that again,
that's not
just
even
me.
Really my point, I guess. Okay, so in, what year is this? In This is a bad comp that I'm going to make.
It's Mac Jones' rookie season. Mac Jones' rookie season, they were a top 10 scoring offense, but they weren't an explosive.
So it's
offense.
more like this in 2016, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to take turnovers out of it because he was insane that year. But like Tom Brady threw 28 touchdowns in 2016. That's, as far as Tom Brady goes, a relatively pedestrian year. 28 touchdowns. They still ranked third in offense. Why? LeGarrette Blount had 18 rushing touchdowns because they just got inside the 5 all the time and hammered it home. That was the year that like James White kept taking screens and getting pushed out of bounds at the 2-yard line.
Yeah.
That happened like 7 or 8 times, if I'm remembering correctly. So like if Drake May throws 20 touchdowns, but they run for another 20.
I hear you.
Drake May played fine.
But you have to remember, and this is we can move on after this, but like he's a playmaker. Drake May he's a playmaking quarterback.
But here's my point. I don't need him to be a playmaker inside the 5. Run the ball in.
No, I'm not saying
even
that.
with him. But like,
I'm just saying like you can't. He's a gunslinger. He's a playmaker. Like that's the type of quarterback they drafted. They drafted Josh Allen. They didn't draft Tom Brady. So like if you're gonna get him to the point where he's a winning player like Josh Allen is now, you have to let him make the mistakes. Because if you try to rein him in and you try to limit, suppress the turnovers, that is also going to suppress the playmaking.
I just think we're making different arguments. I think they're going to be more run heavy than they've been in the past in the red zone, which is going to impact his passing touchdown number. So I'm not looking at that number as indicative of success or failure.
I'm looking at like the play style of the offense.
Right, exactly.
I would rather them allow him, like Josh Allen has, like to figure it out as he goes here to get that turnover number down to the point where in 3 or 4 years from now he is playing at an MVP level, than to try to suppress both. Because what they're going to end up doing is if you say to him, we can't turn the ball over, that's emphasis number 1, is don't turn the ball over. He's not going to make the plays.
But you also can't be afraid when there are bad turnovers to do things to correct them.
Sure. All right. Eldred is in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
What up, fellas? I would blow the horn, but I'm in the parking lot without everybody, and I can't do that one.
Fair enough.
Ain't going down the highway. Okay. Question. Evan?
Yes, sir.
Try Madden, man. And I would love to see you and Bart go at it. And like I said, I've been playing Madden for about 30-something years now, and I still play it. And I'm 63, so I still play.
There you go.
Yeah, I would try that. And my question is, I'm like everybody else about Matt Hollins, and I'm hopefully that one of the young guys, maybe to give John Giles a shot at it, at the X. But you keep thinking the X is just going to be a sacrifice dummy, just run down the. Because I'm pretty sure he ain't gonna keep doing that like the Brady offense. You got to throw it deep sometime because Drake got the arm to throw deep too. And I'll take it off the air. Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, Eldred. Thanks for the call. Yeah, I definitely think that's a something that Drake. Not that Brady was a bad deep ball thrower by any means, but that's a strength of Drake May's game that maybe wasn't a strength of Mac's game as much. That with Josh McDaniels in this offense, like you want to see more of those down the field throws. No doubt about it, and maybe that X receiver gets a little bit more volume because of that. It's definitely possible. Yeah. All right, last call here. Todd is in Gardner. What's up, Todd?
Hey guys, I got just a quick question for you, and I'll give you my answer before I get off there and take it. So I'm wondering if who's gonna mature first into what they're going to be, the defense or the offense. And I think it's going to be the offense because I think this is Drake May's second year in there. I think with Josh McDaniels can take what he's got, and they'll be able to. You'll see the offense come into its own before the defense because I think the defense has got a lot of new parts, a whole new identity they're trying to bring in. And these guys haven't played before together, and I don't know. Something just doesn't feel like it's going to come quickly. I'm not going to say it's not going to come. I just feel like it's going to take more time to get the style of defense that Vrabel wants in place. What do you guys think? Thanks, guys. Great show.
It's a good question, Todd. So historically, defense is ahead of offense, right?
Yeah.
Like just in terms of training camp and all that kind of stuff. And I do kind of lean a little bit towards defense just because – for one, I still think their talent on the roster is better on defense for now than it is on offense until we see some of these rookies play and maybe, Campbell and Kyle Williams and Travion Henderson improve the talent level of the offense beyond what it is now. But until I see that happen, I still think the defense is a little bit more veteran and a little bit more established talent on that side. It's also Vrabel's side of the ball. So, like, I lean a little bit more towards defense just because historically that's what comes faster to most teams. But with McDaniels, like, it's a big learning curve for a lot of young players on offense. It's a tough offense to grasp. It's a young quarterback in another system, year 2, different system. I could see there being some growing pains on offense.
Yeah, I think the defense, one, has more veteran players, like you said, and also what, in terms of what they're going to become, I think more the long-term personnel, more the core is built on defense than offense. Yes, you have the quarterback on offense. It's monumentally important. But on defense, you have Christian Barmore, Keon White's hopefully a part of this, obviously Christian Gonzalez. I know kind of on the fringe, but, Kyle Duggar's not old. He's not young, but he's not old, right?
Yeah.
On offense, you have Drake May, you have Will Campbell. Kyle Williams, I think ideally long-term is your wide receiver too, right? I still think they're going to make a big splash at receiver. 1, if not 2 spots on the offensive line are still going to turn over. Are they committed to Mondre Stevenson long-term, or is there another back coming in with Travion Henderson? How long is Hunter Henry's runway? Like, I think the offense is still going to change a lot around Drake May between now and when he gets into his prime at 26, 27, 28 years old.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think that's ultimately what it is defensively. I just feel like they have more established players and like NFL established. Like, we know Christian Gonzalez, we know Carlton Davis, we know what Millen Williams is, we know what Barmore is when he's healthy. We even know what a guy like Robert Spillane is going to bring, to the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, I still think that you're really hoping that the young talent, Drake May, Will Campbell, Kyle Williams, Travion Henderson, maybe the guys from the 2024 draft. Like, you're still hoping that young talent is going to elevate your ceiling, and it's kind of a little bit of a mystery of that if that's going to happen or not. I don't necessarily feel that really with the defense. Like, even defensively, we did today with the safeties. Like, Peppers and Kyle Duggar are NFL players. Like, I don't know if they're great NFL players or elite NFL players, but we've seen them play at a starting caliber clip in the past. We've never seen Kyle Williams be a starting X receiver in the NFL. I hope he's a great one, but we've never seen it happen. So that's where that is. It's a good question by Todd there at the end. I'm not going to, there's some Celtics questions in the emails, but I'm going to let it go because it's 2:00. We got to cut it off, but I'm not trading Jaylen Brown. There was too many questions, too much of that going on, but we'll be back next week. I think we're getting to an OTA, right? Next week? I don't remember what day it's on.
I think Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have an OTA to talk about. We'll obviously have the schedule officially to discuss as well. And then we'll talk about the schedule plenty tomorrow on Patriots Unfiltered, and Alex will be on the Sports Hub, I'm sure, as well to get scheduled takes. So
live show tonight starting at 7:50.
There you go. So we'll have plenty of scheduled takes, but today stuck to minicamp and the roster reset. So thanks for all the calls and emails there at the end. I'm glad we were able to get to all of you guys, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Hey, this is Alex. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you really want to help us, make sure you like us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, make sure you follow us on the New England Patriots YouTube channel to see this show and everything else we do here at the Patriots. Thanks a lot.